Welcome to the deep dive.
Great to be here.
So today we're tackling something pretty common in most kitchens, right?
Yeah.
Butter versus plant-based oils.
Yeah, exactly. What's the real story when we look at, the long term? Our health, our lifespan.
We've got some quite fascinating long-term research to get into, studies that have really tracked this over time.
That's right. We're diving into research that followed individuals for many, many years, looked at their diets, their health.
And the core question really is this: does eating more butter actually link to a higher risk of, well, mortality?
And on the flip side, could choosing plant-based oils more often actually help us live longer? It's
Yeah.
potentially surprising stuff, especially if you love butter.
Definitely makes you think.
Okay.
Okay, so let's unpack that main finding first. This research, consistently it seems, points to a connection.
Mm.
Higher butter consumption seems associated with an increased risk of mortality. So dying sooner, basically, over the study period.
It's quite a direct finding, yeah.
Yeah.
Like you said, consistent across these long-term observations.
But then there's the other side, which is just as interesting.
Right. The research also suggests that people who consistently eat more plant-based oils tend to have a lower risk of mortality.
So it's like two diverging paths depending on the main fat source.
Pretty much. It suggests a potentially significant difference in long-term health outcomes based on that dietary pattern.
And here's the really practical part, I think. The studies don't just show these links. They actually suggest that making a switch,
Actively substituting, yeah.
right, swapping out butter for plant-based oils, that could be a positive move for longevity.
Exactly. And that idea of substitution is key. It's not just about avoiding butter, perhaps, but about the benefit you might gain from adding the oils instead.
So why would that be? What's the thinking there?
Well, it likely comes down to the types of fat, Butter is rich in saturated fats.
Which we generally hear aren't great in large amounts.
Correct. Whereas many plant-based oils, think olive oil, canola oil, soybean oil, they're high in unsaturated fats, polyunsaturated and monounsaturated.
The ones linked to better heart health, typically.
Exactly. Those fats are generally understood to have a more positive effect on things like cholesterol levels and overall cardiovascular health.
So maybe less strain on the system long term?
That seems to be the leading hypothesis based on this data. It's that consistent, regular choice, reaching for the oil instead of the butter, that appears to add up over time.
It really highlights how those small, everyday dietary habits can accumulate, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's not about one meal, but the pattern over years, even decades.
So for you listening, if butter is, a frequent feature on your table or in your cooking,
This research definitely presents something to consider regarding long-term health.
it's not about panic, but more about understanding these potential cumulative effects.
Precisely. The big takeaway from digging into this research is that the type of fat we mainly consume seems genuinely linked to our long-term health outcomes, including mortality risk.
Higher butter intake linked to higher risk. Higher plant oil intake linked to lower risk.
That's the core message from these observational studies.
So as you think about, I don't know, making breakfast tomorrow or cooking dinner tonight,
It might prompt some reflection.
yeah, what small changes, if any, might feel right for you based on this? And maybe what other questions does this spark?
Right, like how do other types of fats fit in? Or what about different plant oils specifically?
Definitely food for thought. It gives you something to mull over regarding your own